You all seem to enjoy the last KF2 video, so how about I dive a little deeper into the skills of the classes as well as their weapons. It is generally a safe bet to commit either to the left or the right sides of the skill menus, so we'll address them as such and call them by the title of the first skill unless it's stupid. So with that out of the way, welcome to Berserker! Our dear old melee man and or but not exclusive to woman is plighted with the classic conundrum for all who dare take combat into their own hands. In the most literal of senses. Do you bulk up and see how hard it is to flex bullets out of your skin, or do you try the mythical thing called skill expression and parry enemy attacks while spinning around them faster than a ballerina on Adderall? If you think this choice is difficult, then fret not, my nooblets, for I will explain the options vigorously, and by the end of it you will still be unable to choose, but now you will know what fun you won't be having when you make the decision. Though before you cower in fear and piss yourself at the prospect of decision-making, just remember that you can change your skills once per wave and you can mix and match to your heart's content. Dreadnaught. You have taken it upon yourself to be your team's big beef ball of unmovable proportions. Once you reach level 5 and unlock your first skill, you'll notice that your HP has become double that of the average accountant. Upon grinding a few more games, you'll find yourself able to drink the blood of your fallen foes, as well as be able to swing around your heavy weapons like how you swung around that softball bat when Joshua wouldn't share his big league chew with you. 5 levels and an anger management session later, and you have resistance to anything that tries to unhuman you, as well as an extra bottle of hand sanitizer and some earplugs. An afternoon later, and your big boy slams become bigger, boyer, and slammer, with increased damage, increased headshot damage, yes, there's melee headshots, and increased chance of making your enemies wish they had their life alert. Once you've spent the last week playing Berserker and coping with the fact that hell on earth is still going to be impossible at level 25, you gain the magical power to unbreak your limbs and stun all nearby enemies unfortunate enough to witness your glory whenever Z time is triggered. For the most part, you're going to prioritize using weapons that have their weight measured in toddlers. If you like buying things early and aren't a stingy gromboloid like me, you are probably going to go with the fire axe. It's a fire axe. It doesn't do anything special. Your next choice would be the pulverizer. The demolitionist thought it'd be cool to feed blasting caps into a magazine and weld it to the side of a sledgehammer, and your dumbass thought it was safe enough to wield. When bludgeoning baddos with this blasting battle bonker, you can perform a heavy melee attack that'll atomize anything unfortunate enough to not be you. I don't really think any of the 1600 costs particularly apply to the Dreadnaught playstyle, but we'll talk about the static strikers here anyway because they got some saucy things happening. When you use a heavy attack, the shock pens in your fist activate and you inflict your target with the same zappies that your grenades give off. This feeling is so unpleasant that it stops stalkers from concentrating on their lesser invisibility, makes sirens regret quitting their music careers, and force fleshpounds to realize that maybe violence isn't the answer. Maybe everyone's just a little hurt on the inside. And we must put our differences aside to help us nurture a healthy relationship. Unless you're facing me! Note, Explosive T-5 is not an abusive asshole, and is far too alone to even think of harming others. And last, but the opposite of least, we have the Battle Axe. Weighing in at a whopping 4.5 toddlers, this weapon's sole purpose is removing the blood from your enemies in the most efficient way possible. By deleting their flesh. I swear to Jeebus Crimbo himself that when you right-click with the battle axe, you somehow manage to make the enemy have more blood, though that may just be what happens to meat when you hit it with a brick of tungsten on a stick. Skirmisher. You came to the melee gig with the foolish assumption that it would be anything more than a neuron activation class. Luckily for you, someone on the dev team thought it would be cool if the Berserker could use more than one button. The skill this build is named after gives you the power of not skipping leg day, allowing you to outrun the accountant with their little tiny baby feet. You also passively unkill yourself over time, meaning you can skirmish with the enemies until your allies decide to actually play the game. Butcher grants you increased attack speed and damage, allowing you to fruit ninja Zeds like you have bombs disabled. Next we have parry, and despite me naming this build after Skirmisher, the most defining trait of it is actually this skill. If you play chicken with the enemy's attacks and try to block them at the last possible second, you will parry the attack instead of blocking it. This causes you to start crying Kool-Aid, giving you sensory overload to help indicate that you are doing something cool. While in this funkalicious state, your skin becomes harder than steel, and your weapons swing a teensy tiny bit faster, which pairs nicely with this vintage damage bonus. Now you may be thinking, wow, Explosive, that buff seems really cool and kinda lame. Can I have half of it as a permanent effect? And I say to that, yes you can! With Massacre, you have the itty-bitty, teeny-tiny, astronomically small squidgent of a melee speed boost added to your roster of permanent buffs, as well as a knockoff version of the damage boost, because you are cheap! And lastly, you've become such a powerful force that not even time can stop your slaughter. While the rest of your party is busy trudging through the soup of time, you are spinning around and decapitating Zeds at full speed. There really isn't anything else to say about this skill. It is probably one of the most enjoyable things to experience in KF2, so I highly recommend a few rounds with it before you prestige and immediately regret your choices. Now you may have been able to do the math on your own, but because this is an instructional video, I am going to instruct you anyway. The Dreadnaught focuses on using right-click, so naturally the Skirmisher focuses on whatever the other buttons are. Your weapons are all about peeling Zeds apart one layer at a time while blocking attacks between your onslaught of slashes. Starting off your journey is the staple of Japanese weaponry, the katana. Not only is this weapon faster than a caffeinated squirrel, but it also has a custom draw attack. If you hold the attack button when you switch to the katana, you will do a heavy attack, which is kinda cool, I guess. Next we have the Hemo Clobber. Your passive healing just isn't enough, or your field medic is busy thinking they're a DPS, because of somebody. If you find yourself so merciful to hijack that role, you can beat the ever-living life into people with your max speed Hemo Clobbering. Additionally, you can cross the Dreadnaught Skirmisher divide and perform a heavy attack to do an AoE heal, as well as poison enemies if they aren't busy being dead. And for your final weapon, we have the Bone Crusher. A pile of garbage welded to a bat and a hubcap for maximum Mad Max madness. The special thing about this junkyard project is that you can block ranged attacks unlike every other weapon in the game. Now you may have noticed I skipped over a few weapons. For simplicity's sake, I will not cover DLC weapons whether I have them or not. I don't want to be responsible for you going into debt because you saw the funny man wielding a budget lightsaber. But that still leaves the range weapons. And here they are! The Vlad 1000 nail gun fires dozens of tiny javelins to justify its classification as a berserker weapon. You can either use this weapon as a shotgun or switch it to single fire so you don't run out of ammo after 5 seconds. And due to this weapon's low weight, there is a 136% chance that you will pick up this bad boy as your secondary, just in case your confidence wavers and you believe yourself a mere mortal. Though if the nail gun is not enough range for you, you can pick up the HRG Tesla Launcher. Tez Launcher? God, this name sucks. Like all HRG weapons, it can be summarized by using the ad-lib. It's the blank, but it shoots blank. In this scenario, it's the medic's grenade rifle, but it shoots balls of radiation and EMP grenades. Now if you want an actually creative ranged weapon, let me show you the Eviscerator. This monstrosity is a combination of a circular saw and a crossbow. You can fire saw blades that will ricochet off anything they won't bore through. Additionally, you can acknowledge that you are in fact the Berserker and hold right-click to activate your circular saw and run through enemies like you're mowing the lawn. Just be aware that the Eviscerator is the one melee weapon that requires ammo to function. And there you have it, Berserker explained by someone with way too many levels in it. Ah, who am I kidding? You can never have too much Berserker. Hey, friend. Oh no!